Hello and welcome to this buildingSMART room session as a part of the buildingSMART International Standards Summit, Rome 2023. Thank you for joining. My name is Jeffrey Olette. I will be your moderator today. Today's session is titled the Product Room Industry Input. This is Product Room session number 3. It is scheduled to last at least 90 minutes. Hopefully there'll be some times for questions towards the end. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand it over to our speakers, I would like to remind you that this is a hybrid event. For online attendees, your microphones will remain muted for the duration of the session. If you wish to ask a question, please use the chat box in the control panel. For those in the room, please try to keep the background noise to a minimum and raise your hand if you wish to make a comment or ask a question. We do have a couple of mobile mics. We'll bring those around, and that is for the benefit of the online attendees to hear the questions. I would also like to bring to your attention, this other slide, that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favor any particular provider, are open, non-binding, and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct. It can be found here, or it can also be found on our website, buildingsmart.org. With that, I'm going to, which presentation first? Okay.
So hello everyone. I'm glad we are here. So I had just introduction. Why am I here? I actually found out that I've spent working on product-related stuff in BIM most of my adult life. So I started with the development of libraries and dealing with all these topics with manufacturers like assemblies, product information, geometries, and everything like that. I'm trying to participate also in technical committees. So I'm the guy for the product, what is product related topics and so on in the product room. So since we are the product room and we need information in BIM models, we can say, if I really simplify things, that the information is either requirement or product related stuff. And we were thinking about the manufacturers, what their issues could be, what are they dealing with, and how can we help them basically as a product room. So it can be maybe enhancing of the standards or another standard. It can be maybe marketing way of the buildingSMART to support them, because we found out that some of them don't have really the support in the companies. It can be help with the like spreading the knowledge of what actually is a database, what should be in it, and so on. So for that, we invited 4 speakers from this industry who actually have some experience with BIM to share with us, to share with you, and to have, reveal some topics we can discuss after that, so we can together find maybe some related topics that will move us forward as the product room. So first speaker is online. It's Jaap Bakker from Rijkswaterstaat, and I would like to bring him on. Yeah, I don't know how actually. So welcome, Jaap.
Right, my name is Jaap Bakker. I work at Rijkswaterstaat, and Rijkswaterstaat is a Dutch government agency. And I'm active in asset management, and actually the asset management is, of course, the user of all the information you deliver from projects. So I'll tell you something about our perspective, and I discussed this with Radboud before, if it would be interesting to show here, and he said it might be interesting for you, so I hope it is. Yes, so Rijkswaterstaat is a government agency, and we have to maintain a road network, a waterways network, and and the main water system. To, of course, the Netherlands below sea level, so we also do the flood protection and make sure all the water goes into the sea before it goes into the land. So this is our type of work we do, and I'm in the maintenance group. And if we look at our information landscape, we have to do with lots of sorts of data, and all this data has been created somewhere in time. And it happens like this: first, you all see the same network, but then at some point, someone says, "I have a certain process, and for this process, I need a system, a computer system." He buys a system, and the system has, or he makes it, and the system has a data structure. Well, if you have a large agency like ours, then we try to make afterwards, when there's other people doing similar process, we make a process standard. And then the process standard also implies a data standard. So that's how usually it starts with a process, and then it ends up with standardization. And of course, we've done that with all our different processes. And because there are many processes running at the same time for many sorts of infrastructure, we got to deal with a lot of different data structures, because we never developed our data from a data perspective. So that's why people can look at the same thing and seeing different things in practice, even though the actual reality is the same. And this is not easily changed, because all these procedures and all these standards, they exist. And now as at Rijkswaterstaat, we have to deal with all these standards. And the challenge is, how do you do that? So as Rijkswaterstaat, we have our Rijkswaterstaat information landscape, and that's already containing many different systems with many different semantics. And we have to deal with the product landscape. And the product landscape increasingly relies on BIM models. So we have to be able to deal with BIM models, and usually these BIM models are made based on a data architecture which comes from the contractor. But we also have to deal with all the sorts of open data that are available from national perspective and so on, like underground data and data from other asset managers. So the question is, how do you do that? The old-fashioned ways with our own system. First we try to make a big new system, of course, and then we spend a lot of money, and then we say, okay, we cannot deal with this, so we have to learn to deal with a distributed world. And I want to share some of our findings, and also the relation with the BIM models. First thing is dealing with semantics. We have a Dutch Rijkswaterstaat development of our own object type library. And in our object type library, each concept has a definition. And we also made a mapping with the Dutch CBNL, which is the semantics that we agree to in the Netherlands. I'll show you in the next slide. And in this way, we try to define our own dialect and relate it to other dialects which are in the world. So we have description, and we have for each type of object, this is a bridge. Then we tell what sort of properties do we want to know from a bridge, what sort of relations and mappings. So this is our Rijkswaterstaat OTL. Actually, it's going to be rebuilt because there's still lots of problems with it. And there's also a Dutch initiative, and this is the CBNL. And it also has the same idea. We have all these dialects, and we want to connect them. And for instance, here, a bridge has a semantic definition based on certain standard properties. And then it also shows the mapping to other standards. So in this way, we try to make different worlds communicate. So there's dealing with semantics is important, because we have different formats, and we have the same information about the same asset in different dialects. So we want to be able to combine these dialects. And the other part is the digital twinning and linked data part. Actually, as we all look at the same reality, we may have different perspectives, but if we can glue our data to this objective reality, which is the digital representation of our reality, then we can maybe able to communicate better, even though we don't speak the same language. So we did some tests here. There was an example where we connected 3 different asset management systems to a data viewer and point clouds and and national data and a BIM model. But this is not the example I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a few different examples just to give you a feeling. First, the linked data approach. So we all see the same bridge if we look at it, but we may have a different definition. Someone will say this is a steel bridge. Someone else will say this is a traffic bridge, and someone else will say it's a what would be the word? Well, it would be a structural definition of the bridge. But they may say it's a truss bridge. So just imagine there's one data set that says I'm talking about a truss bridge on location X, and it has an object code and it has a length and it has an owner, and this is this bridge. And someone else says I have a traffic bridge with the same object code, and it has a load class and I have a permit. And based on semantics, we can say, okay, a truss bridge and traffic bridge is both subtype of bridge. It has the same object code, so probably this bridge is the same one as this bridge. And the third asset system may say, no, it's a steel bridge on location X. And then, of course, it's also the same subtype relation, and it has the same location. So you may conclude this could be the same bridge we're talking about. And this one says it has a year of construction, 1900. And there's a document connected to it, and it may be an owner, a person within the same region. So there's a relation because it's both owner. So this way, using linked data, you could relate things without actually combining them. And if you connect all these things to geospatial glue, then you can still find all this data from one point. So this is the thing we're looking at the Rijkswaterstaat. We haven't fully implemented everything, but we've done more than I think there's more than 36 pilots running at the Rijkswaterstaat with all different sorts of digital twin kind of use, and because each process sees the use of digital twins, and now we're looking at the way to integrate all these different initiatives. So we want to use the semantics because the semantics gives the meaning, and we want to use location to connect all these data sets. And maybe if some new BIM model comes in, we want to be able to connect it, and want to connect it to external data, and maybe to scanning data or photography data, and find the human interface which makes it easy for us to find the data we're looking for, or to manipulate it the right way. And we don't do that starting with a BIM model, because we have a network which is 100% of our network, and we adjust maybe 1 or 1.5% per year. So you cannot say, I have this BIM model and this is my model for life, because this BIM model has to feed into our existing asset management, because you cannot build, even if these BIM models, if we have different projects, each contractor will give us a different BIM model. So none of it fits in our way of asset thinking. So I have some examples on how we want to deal with this. This is first example of a sluice in IJmuiden, and they had the installation rooms where they want to connect data to their digital twin. And I'll start this film just to give some idea of the first application, and it might be already starting here. Oh, here it is. Okay, so we scanned in the installation rooms, and it took us less than a half a day. And within a weekend, they connected all the data from an asset management system to this interface. So this goes straight into Ultimo. Ultimo is an asset management system, and it's used to register flaws. So if something fails, they must deregister it. And the idea here is that the one who's doing the maintenance, he directly goes to the right field in Ultimo to make a registration. This way, he makes sure that he doesn't make it on the wrong machine, because he just goes to it. And the other way is that he could also find other data which is related to this point. So it isn't a real BIM model, but it's good enough for asset management to go to the right spot and to maybe find other connected data which is related to this point. So this is a really practical way to deal with the sort of problems we find in the asset management. I will now give you another example. This is about the Dutch dikes. We have dikes, and the underground is sometimes soft soil, and there may be some risks of dike failure at high waters. So they model the underground, and you want to do it in an interactive way. And this is also an open source viewer, Cesium. Here there are some maps showing about certain types of details. And this can be placed on underground. And here are all the measurements of soil decomposition. And based on that, they made 3D layers. And they made an interface, how you can see how is the underground based on the grid that you put on top. Or maybe you could focus in one point. And then you make an intersection and you can look how is the underground below this piece, the dike. So the actual data that's used here is not owned by Rijkswaterstaat. It's open data, but we use a linked data technology to connect all this data to a viewer where you can view this data for the application we want to make. Now there's a third one I want to show you, and that's a digital twin pilot we did, where we have the idea that if we have some shared environment, where in the past we used GIS, a flat 2D GIS, maybe we could have something which we could put all the sorts of data on top to manage it more in a more integral way. Now I'm going to Now go to this viewer, and I'm going to show you some things on this viewer. Okay, our basic map is just an. Just a second. It's just a layer, a basic map. We could also have a picture made from the air, and we also have an open data source for all the buildings we have in the Netherlands. And switch it on or off. So we put that on top. It's not Rijkswaterstaat data, but it's open source available data. And this sort of data, it has, can you see the energy label or the year of construction? So this is all open data, and it's also an open source viewer. So we could already have this data without doing anything ourselves. There's also a tree library. And so all the trees are in open source data library. So we could also add them to our underground. And then we have our own digital topographic data set, and it's 2.5D. So maybe I can show you about that. Wait, I'll do it differently. I will go to the user stories now. You have some idea of the basic maps, and we made some user stories to show you what we can do with this. So this user stories also has a description. It's all open available. So this is our basic map. And this is Den Haag, for instance, but we have it of all Netherlands. So we have this data of all these buildings. They're available as open source, and we can put this in our open source software. So we could share it with each contractor without having all sorts of problems with rights of being able to access this software. We can add photogrammetry with it. This is an orthotropic picture which they combined with laser scan view and then get a real 3D result. You can it's really 3D because you can access it from any direction. So this is all still using open data. And then we add our digital topographic layer. So this is 2.5D. So this is a traffic point where all these bridges are crossing each other, and they're just only 2D at a certain height. But we have this from our whole network. So we also have it from our sluices and from our bridges. So if you have this basic layer, then you can add all sorts of other data to it. If you have specific data for specific use. So here we have an example where we've added point clouds. And these point clouds can be used to check our digital topographical layer, if it's correct. As you can see, next slide. So here we see our digital representation, and it's right on top of the actual real point cloud. So we can check if it's correct. Another application is that we had a BIM model of the Heinenoord tunnel. And the Heinenoord tunnel It's a tunnel in the Netherlands. It builds up a little bit slowly, but they didn't have a 3D model, but they want to put the maintenance on the market for a longer period of time. But so they scanned in the first. They made a complete scan of all the whole tunnel, and they added all their existing documents to this. No, first they made the scan, and then they subtracted 3D objects from the scan. So they made a BIM model from the scanning, and then they connected all sorts of data to this BIM model. So this actually now you can navigate it, and you can go into, and you can click on one, and it says what gives you the data on this signaalgever, we call it in Dutch. So all the sorts of data, sometimes drawings, sometimes installation schedules, and so on, was all connected to this interface to communicate with the contractor. And also inside, you can see the installation rooms, where all this, where also you can see this part is actually really modeled in a BIM model, because it was an adjustment they want to make. So you can add that to the surrounding you already have. We also had a renovation of a bridge. I don't have my DTB below it, so it's now only a picture of the underground. So it's now not properly on the existing underground, but still yet I could add an extra layer, and then it would work. So now it stands on top of the road. Of course, that's not correct, but that's because of one of the layers is switched off. So you do get the idea. And then so also the part underground. So and the last one I wanted to show you. Last story. Just a sec. Oh, that's a shame. Now it's. I think it gets a little bit overheated. I will just show you the picture, because I can show it in my presentation. We had a 3D model of this is a bridge, the Moerdijkbrug, and it has a problem with fatigue. So we made a Revit model of the bridge, and then we also put a finite element calculation right on top of the model, and we added sensors to the bridge, and it has the load response of each vehicle on the bridge. It measures, and then it evaluates the finite element calculation. So there's all sorts of uncertainties in these calculations, which makes the prediction of when it will crack where very bad, but it can learn it from itself. So the element calculation will be better each time. And the idea would be that there's a time slider where it shows where we expect that the first the cracks will occur. So this is a way of where you have a complex model behind it, but the result is something simple you show on a 3D. I could have shown you live, but it wouldn't work. So this just gives us an idea on how you can connect all sorts of data. If you have your basic underlayer, I don't know how much time left I have, because I really would like to quickly give you an idea of our DTB, because I think that's really nice. So there's the buildings. Oh, here it is. So this is our DTB layer. So that's our own data layer, where all our 3D data comes from our own management system. It builds up a little bit slowly now. I think I managed a little bit too quickly, but well, I think you do get the idea of what we are trying to show you. I can also go to my own house. Then you will see. It's a different one. It doesn't matter. You can go to any place, and you can just see this is our DTB, and from our dikes. And here's the house which I aimed for. So this is how nice you can combine your own data and open source data from others and open source data from government with your own data, and then make something which will help you in practice. So I want to show you this because I think it helps for the discussion about BIM and how BIM fits into asset management. And that's about the end of my presentation. Just in time, I think.
When we talk about an elevator has a shorter life cycle. It's around 15 to 20 years. And when we then look at the life cycle topics, or we have for an elevator different life cycles inside one life cycle per building. And then, of course, the Schindler process, it's not just the life cycle, we have the new installation, then we going in the operation or in the service, we have existing installation, repairs, and then afterwards modernization. I worked a lot in modernization, so I was doing a lot of research how the building is looking in the current stage, and if the new traction machine will fit into the machine room or not. So modernization is also a big topic. And then, of course, we're doing existing installation again. And in this process on Schindler's side, we have a lot of people involved, or the project techniques, installation, then of course of the service side and the modernization side. And that means we have inside this life cycle of one building a lot of challenges of interfaces, not just externally with our stakeholders, also internally, how we manage this whole data flow through the whole life cycle. And we have, of course, seen how different the market is, or when we talk about buildings, it's quite different than we talk about airports or ships or an hospital. And we have, of course, then also different requirements if we talk about different phases of the life cycle, also internally. And this whole interfaces, or we talk about different software and so on and so on. So what are we doing to solve these challenges? And I think, therefore, we try to build a consistent data model from start to end, and that it goes further and further again. So, and of course, that's quite complex, and it's not easy to solve. And we say, but start small, and we start with the planning phase. So one step behind the other. And where we started, or of course, we came from the 2D world. We were drawing with ink on paper. And afterwards we're going to a CAD tool, still 2D, but maybe now on a computer. And what we are doing now are we handle models, and not just 3D models, also data models. And with PIM, or the product integration management from, in mechanical engineering, I think it's quite common already. And so there we are, and we want to go further. And what questions do we have to clarify for that? And I think that's when you, within buildingSMART, I think that questions were really common, or who is involved? What do we need as input? What do we give as output? When do we need it? How do we need it? And why? And what we're doing in the VDI buildingSMART guideline 2552 sheet 11.5, we were answering these questions, and it was like an acronym, or where architects, engineering from civil work, where manufacturers were sitting, also software vendors, and we were discussing these questions quite from the beginning, and we tried to answer who is involved, how he's doing, or what he has to deliver, when he has to deliver it, and how. And so we're able to say what are our requirements already in a quite early phase, for example, for traffic analyzers in a building. We have seen our traffic is quite a topic on the streets, but it's also a topic inside the buildings. And when we get this data early from the customer or the building models, we are able to make specific traffic analyzers, model-based, with already existing data. We don't need more than there is already. And what we then provide in an early step, we have a plan and design tool. It's web-based, and I think you need to insert around 5 data, and you will get a model back. Of course, you get also a drawing, and you get a product sheet, PDF, but you already get a model in this early stage. And of course, we take a lot of assumptions in the background, so that is like predefined settings we have done, but it's already possible with 5 values to generate a BIM model you can use for your planning phase. And here is it, or what we are doing later when it becomes in the direction of an offer. We get like the model from the architect, and we have defined within the VDI that also as a requirement, or the request should be like insert in the model from the architect. So you have there already an IFC transport element which carries all requirements which are needed for us to define the elevator. And it's a little bit small, but therefore, or it's everything there. And then you can, from our perspective, we have a quite good input, and it's already machine readable, we can use for generation. And so we have here the building model creation, and what we do next is to create the elevator model. And with this data we got, here you see it now in like the manual way, but that's done automatically. You get the input. For example, now you see, okay, my first presetting about the doors was wrong, and I will change the doors, or it fits to the requirements from the customer. You have seen first. And what we are doing later, or we have now the elevator model in a LG 200 maybe. And you see we have the geometry, and also the openings are defined as openings. They're like that the architect can use them, and they're in his software then again for his Schlitz- und Durchbruchsplanung. I don't know the English word. But for all the cuttings. And he also gets, for example, I think you have seen it in the beginning, this provision for void. So he already knows how much space he has to reserved for the elevator inside his building. And we matched it with the phase A, or you get just the space you need, in the LOD 200 phase B, when you get a little bit more detailed. Then you have maybe also the doors inside, and also some other cuttings you need. And in the phase 3, the C, you have an LOD 300 where every component which is then relevant for the life cycle and also the service and operation is pictured as 3D geometry, and of course carries also the necessary information. And so what have we done? Or we have seen a lot this whole challenges with the different customers and stakeholders. So we try to give a quite easy access to this information, web-based, and this is not some data which is like in a library. It's really connected to our configurator, where you have all time the up-to-date planning data. We try to really make an early entry, or as early as possible, because we figured out that there are all information quite early available. So we don't wait, or we all want to do front loading. We all want to improve and get more efficient. And I think that's quite possible when we talk about elevators. And of course, we don't talk about all of our information. We have a lot of information from the elevator, and I think we can crash all your products and softwares with our data. So we try to give a minimum output or input. And then, yeah, of course, maybe there are 5 project-related specific elevator properties we need, but that's then not a problem. And of course, we talk about open exchange format, always IFC. And yes, as I said, or it's not just the minimum input, it's all the minimum output. And I think with the IFC, we have seen from elevator perspective that we are there quite flexible to have also additional data output sets. So for us, it's not a problem to add maybe 3 or 5 project-specific elevators properties, and all classifications we need there are already there. And we try to use a uniform terminology. So there also, I was searching in the buildingSMART data dictionary, I was searching in the IFC standard, and I was also looking a lot in the already existing standards for elevators. So I think there are already defined which wording should be used, and we really try to take things which are already existing and nothing to define nothing new what is not needed. And of course, we try also to automate this connections, or we talk about, I think we are not quite there yet, but we talk also about trying about IFC JSON via APIs, that you then can also do this exchange of information, input and output, what you have seen with the planning tool, in a quicker way. And yeah, maybe not this manual, I'm typing it manual from a printed sheet. And then, of course, when we have this data, or we can, for example, feed our robots for installation, I mean, they never will ask for a plan, or they use the data out the model, and then it's machine learning, and it works. And of course, that's our think small, or start small, and we want to think big. Of course, we have not just the life cycle and a new installation in mind, we have the whole building life cycle in mind, and we start there with the traffic analyzers, the planning and the fulfillment progress. And of course, we then want to talk about the existing installation, about exchanging information in the operation. Therefore, we have a solution called Colab, which is then able to exchange data from the operating elevator with the building management system. And of course, we want to get some information back for modernization. How does the building change in the life cycle? Are there any adaptations at the mechanical, at the doors, or maybe on the machine room? And then, or we talk about the steps in each phase of the life cycle at each phase of our process. And so what have we do with this start small, or we have project-specific data which can be exchanged. I think with the VDI, we have already a standard there which describes it for the planning phase of elevators. And where we want to go, or we want to have an automation and become more efficient in our planning, in our operation. And for that, I think we need a little bit more standards than just for the planning phase. And we need to set the standard. In my point of view, we are buildingSMART, we are the IFC and SEN. And so therefore, we asked about that this VDI is becoming or going in the direction of SEN. We had there an exchange already with Raso Steinmann, and we will also have an exchange with buildingSMART data dictionary, and so we are going there some steps. And this next steps to make it specific, would be to develop guidelines then for construction and operation of an elevator, to do this definition also for escalator and moving walks, and of course to test this all in real projects. And that's an invitation to contact us, Schindler or the buildingSMART product room, that we can go this next steps together. And of course, we are also quite open to test the VDI standard we created already with software, or we tested in real projects. So we're using it already in real projects, quite good. And so I hope we can make it a little bit more specific and going in small steps ahead. And for example, and that every project in the future will have also an elevator model inside. So thank you. And if there are any questions, I think it's at the end, or
No. This is for the online.
Thank you very much. Just one simple question. Currently, today, the BIM model of the elevator, in which domain does it fall? Is it part of the architect work, or is there a sub-model created for this currently? Or is it something you would step in, fill a gap maybe here as a manufacturer?
I would say we would fill a gap.
Okay.
And I would always recommend to have our own model for the elevator.
Yeah, okay.
Because we have often the topic, or that there's like, okay, you should deliver also a model from the elevator, and then there's like no naming convention for the elevator model. And I ask, okay, how we should call or how we should name the elevator model, and they say, oh yeah, maybe you can add it to the architecture model. But I say, okay, you have also a model for holes, you have also a model for construction, and we have a lot of interfaces to this whole topic, and that's why I really recommend to use an own model for an elevator, and then you have like the link to each model and to the other models, or from the architectural side, and also from electrical perspective and so on.
It's my experience in the United States. It's messy. It's equipment that relies on structural, it relies on electrical systems. It's, like you said, the architect doesn't always have all of the knowledge of the entire system for everything, so they rely on the vendors or the sales reps and everything. Eventually it makes its way in there, but it touches all of the consultants.
And I think also in the direction of the life cycle, or the manufacturer has not always to be the operator. And I think then later on, or you can use the models in different ways.
Okay, anyone else? Yeah.
Stefan Reiser, Swiss Federal Railways. Thank you for your presentation. I especially like the setting standards with buildingSMART is a small step, not a big one.
No, it's not a big thing.
I would like to pick up a topic that we had yesterday, because I think we came to the conclusion that on the buildingSMART data dictionary, manufacturers will be the entities that provide content to such a solution. And I would like to ask you as a manufacturer, what would be a process that you will consider to provide content to a solution such as the BSCD, and what will your requirements be towards the BSCD as a service of buildingSMART International to be usable for your needs?
Thank you for the question. So at first, I think buildingSMART as a small step, it's not the right place, but bringing up the standard from the VDI to buildingSMART, I think that's under one of the first steps we need to consider. And to this buildingSMART data dictionary, if we want to provide their content, of course we want, but I think it's like from us, as I said, or it's currently quite difficult also with this all like country-specific regulations. And what we also figured out, or when I was searching, there's a lot of terminology used like lift, elevator, and elevator is there 5 times. And I'm there currently, like I'm not quite sure if I want to add a 6th elevator. It's like, I think, and I had some discussions, first discussions were small today, and where I hope we can build on and to see how, as a manufacturer, how can we provide content in a good and in a quality or good quality structured way, and that it's then not used in 3 times or 4 times and 5th time, that it's really one clear wording we use and we have the same understanding for the same word. Does it make sense, or does it answer the question?
We'll move to the next presentation. Last one. Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. So next is Magda from Knauf Insulation. Yeah. In the meantime, it seems that every stakeholder has a completely different approach, different things to solve. So there's another one. So.
Wow, I don't know if it disappeared. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. So I will try to give you our perspective as a manufacturer of the product, which is part of the build-ups or system, which will be totally probably different from my colleague. And I don't know if it will be less complicated, much more complicated, but it will be different for sure. So you can see just when we talk about this kind of product like insulation, and this is the line. So we are quite automatized as an industry, and this is something that we are dealing on the daily basis. So I choose few topics, which I think I try to also give you some kind of the context also why for us it's also important, to work in BIM. Somehow also questioning to yourself, because this is also my questioning, personal questioning, what should be a roadmap for the manufacturer in the context of BIM, how we as a community of the buildingSMART International can provide some answer to make this transformation maybe much more easier for the companies as mine. About company, just as I said, so this is the product that you see on your left. This kind of product, so it could be rolls on boards, And we are the company that we have like 30 manufacturing plants around the world, and we are part also of the big structure which is Knauf, which it's mostly the people who are living in Germany from the gypsum part. So this is something, just to give you the update, and also we are operating over the world, which means that also that the BIM understanding is different country by country. Myself, Magda Pyszkowski, I'm civil engineer. I did my study in Polish and in Poland, and I was working for many years for the construction company based in France. So big construction. Then I moved to manufacturing 4 years ago, and I was happy to participate in the first meeting of digital supply chain when we signed the memorandum of understanding with buildingSMART International. So that was really a good experience. I'm also part of the EURIMA. EURIMA is the association for the insulation manufacturer, and we have a pleasure with my colleagues also to wrote a book about 5 years ago now, about the data in the BIM environment. Who is the owner? I think now it's really important question as we discuss on each presentation who also own the data. So we already try to understand in the time. So for the manufacturer as us, as insulation material, sustainability for all of the people who are producing something to use in the building is really a key strategic focus today. So this is something that is our driver. It was always our driver as a company, but now I think it takes much more importance because of the circularity also. So I think this is something it's more to understand. And when we talk to architects or we read about our architects also, that we need to take into consideration the CO2 emission. And I think this is something which is driving us, and we consider that this must be part of the design. This must be part also of the BIM approach. So we have a quite good understanding what is CO2 emission, how we what we talk about is embodied carbon, but also operational carbon. We need to provide some information on this in this area, and also what we see also in the market, that the regulation, which are not BIM regulation, but will impact the design. It's also regarding not only energy consumption, but also carbon. And this is what we see that, for example, this is the regulation in France, 2020 focus, that operational carbon targets and embodied carbon targets, both for the multifamily and single family houses, they have a very important decrease, the target of the decrease of the emission. What is impact? It's in fact impacting also all of the materials. So when we talk about, for example, when we talk about insulation, insulation is in the building element provide 3 to 8% of total embodied carbon. And this kind of information, it's part of the build-ups of the somebody design, and we need to take this into consideration also in the BIM design. So somehow this data must be reachable via BIM models. So I think this context is really important because it also gives you some kind maybe the connection between the data, or which kind of data you need also as a request for the data from the manufacturer. So of course we are also, trying to understand what is the landscape of the BIM, on the BIM information modeling, depending on the countries, what is needed where, and also we see this with our countries, with our location that by country, the interest of BIM is different. So depending, where you are producing, where you are selling, who is asking for what. So somehow it makes our job, I'm working the central part, quite difficult because you cannot just provide one standard for company. You need to really deal with the different kind of the internal requirements also. What we see also that in our world, so we specification, tender, quote, purchase, fulfillment, where we are, as a stakeholders, we see that now we are really switching from the, let's say, from the analog, so from the analog to the digital world. So this operation are demanded now today to be done in the digital way, and it's much more stronger than a few years ago. Now we have some kind of request already. So everything which is blue is now we see this as a digitally enabled decision. Okay, when we talk about BIM, it's always the question, what is the business value for us? And this is my question that I repeat since 3 days, like every time that I can take the voice. We try to understand also the argumentation. This is not easy for the manufacturer to find what is the business value for me. So, okay, we said, okay, sales growth maybe because we can increase the company credibility. Maybe we can increase the product value if we provide the right information. We can maybe transform our transaction into partnership. And for sure, we can have maybe direct contact and early presence if somebody asks for, right? So for us, in terms of cost reduction, I didn't find too much. I found that maybe because we can have increase of the retention and loyalty of our customers, and maybe we can reduce cost per lead. When you sell something, you have leads, so you have the customers, and you need to pay to get these leads. So having easiest access to our customers, maybe we can increase this part of the work. For sure, this is not really economically. It's not really today. It's peanut, like we say in French. So for the BIM roadmap for the manufacturer as we are, which is like, I don't know, huge amount of the companies, we understood that somehow we need to provide a customer-focused solution, and I think this is something which is really our guidance. Then the second point is really that we need to train and support our teams, because as I'm saying, if you don't have a direct request, why you should develop, why you should spend the money, why you should hire a new person to deal with the BIM. The third point that I see that we can find some kind of impact of our sales collaboration with partners. And then the fourth point is really compliance with the standards. But it's coming like by the end, because today it's not done for us to be used by us in the easy way, let's say. In 2019, when I joined Knauf Insulation, I just asked one of the colleagues that I was working my previous life from the construction part, what could be the best way to provide something, to the design and as a manufacturer. So she told me that, and she's also working on the international project. She said, okay, we need to have some kind of access to the product library, product catalogs. It was 2019. And which allows us to do the calculation of performance, and it will be available online. That we can choose the language, level of details, maybe the BIM use, and some parameters, and that allows to do some kind of iteration on the models. And that was our somehow, let's say, first approach to avoid to be part of the different BIM data library. Because in the past, and this is still the case, in fact, when you're a manufacturer, you have a lot of software companies coming to you and saying, okay, we will do the BIM object for you. Great. And yeah, okay. So then you have a cost, like an annual cost. The problem is that internally in the company, very often, this is like, okay, we have budget for this, but nobody take care about this. And we don't have a lead on this. So there is no bidirectional information. So we also started, when I joined, each country had a BIM object, the different libraries depending on the countries. So I said, okay, let's do this maybe a little bit of a smarter way. Let's develop our own generator, and we own our data, and we generate the BIM object as it is. So we do this, so we have kind of solution generator for our object on demand, which are not really useful for the models. But somehow, in the context of the renovation, or in the context of the circularity of, or about, I don't know, energy performance, those information can be used for the calculation. Especially, for example, in France now with this after 2020. Then we have like a internal solution, which is called internally Planner Suite, which is really like a help tools of digital catalog of system done from Knauf Insulation and Knauf products. So you have both together, all of our production together. So we could be, for example, partition wall that we can provide you as to your BIM model. And then our Knauf Insulation development is BIM Factory. It's the collaborative library that we develop based on the certification of some system with third-party manufacturers. And this is something that it seems to be like a very customer-oriented solution today on the market. We see that we can generate leads, so this is nice. And we have a contact, like every day I receive some information back from this kind of the development. And I think the most important, that is easy to use. With those first solution, you need to be BIM user. I'm sorry, but as a manufacturer, I have no BIM modeler in my company. Maybe I have few people who knew how to use Revit. And nobody will invest to have a BIM modeler or BIM, in the manufacturing company just to have them. So we need to have some solution that it's easy to use for the people who doesn't know Revit or Archicad or IFC, because this is the case. Unfortunately, it's like this. Maybe it will change when we will start to work on the projects, yeah, but it's not the case. So this is really what we develop is easy to use for the salesperson. As a salesperson, I can generate my model and I can send this by email to myself, and then I can share with the Revit user or Archicad. So just to give you the idea, what is it? So this is the BIM planner, which is the second solution. So as I said, in the format of Revit or IFC, you can get some BIM model via plugin. So you need to know BIM, you need to know how to use the softwares. This is our solution, which is BIM Factory, which is done, as I said, on the website. You generate the model. In fact, on the beginning, we really digitize the system that we certify together with others manufacturers. So we have a lot of combination. This is now we talk here in this case is about flat roofs. So flat roofs, when you see, this is our product, and those are not our products. But as we have common certification, common requirements, so we respond to this. So we have somehow system, which is not now as a system, but we have all, together the certification which respond to the specific criteria of the building. And I think this is important because that was for us how we can optimize, how we can put together our product to provide the system that fit with the building requirement. So we know how the building works, we know the requirement, so we certify our products together. And then we digitalize them. So this is something that you can go on the website and download, and you are still, as I'm saying, you don't know Revit. You download your system, you generate, you can of course have a nice 3D view, which was done for the sales people that they can go to the customer and say, guys, you can see this is the system. And then you have the description of the system, and you have the three different types of the outcome that you can use. This information, you just put your names, address, email, you got this on your email, and then you can share with those who need the system. So for us, it was the easiest way how we can reach and be somehow present on the market also in the easy to use solution and easy to implement in my company. Because in my company, as I'm saying, I don't have people who came with the Revit or other background, Archicad for the Eastern Europe, for example. So we did this also for the pipes and ducts. We have one of the entity which is pipes and ducts, so technical solution. Also because we had the same problem that we cannot somehow provide the valuable information. Yes, so this is, yeah. Then I told you that this is a lot also about, knowledge, upskills of the people. So we do a lot internally, in fact, like, a monthly meeting. So we explain, we invite the people, you are welcome to join also our internal meeting to explain what we are doing, that they also understand what is the benefits for us as the manufacturer. And we have also our YouTube channel with also explaining how our tools are working, and it's available for everyone. But this is the level, what I told you, it's like customer, oriented solution, easy to use for everyone, and that we can really go to the market. And just to tell you that we check this because I'm really fan of checking. So let's do something, test, and then get the feedback from the market. So we were present on the BIM World Munich last year, and we present also our solution, and it was accepted. We've got also some by the people who came to the stand and tested the solution. We've got like a 4.6 out of 5 as a note. So of course there is some stuff to be improved, but finally it was really great experience and great development. Then because we are in the standard environment. So we said, okay, as I'm saying, I'm looking what is the business value for me as a manufacturer, how I can bring the data in the standardized way. So is there anybody who can tell me which data they need for doing something? So we thanks to the work that we are doing, internationally, we participate last year in the project about lean logistics. So the idea is how we can use the innovative logistic model for the construction based on the consolidation of the building product manufacturer flows and just-in-time principle. The idea was that many of manufacturers, as we, provided the data of this product together, that the people who are working on this project can do the kitting. And if the kitting, so they put together the materials that are needed to realize one of the part of the building. For them, the idea was to have like a 5% plus margin for the construction company because of this innovative principle. More than 60% reduction of the delivery, because when you go for the job site, I was also part of the job site, the time that the workers are running on the job site to find the materials to bring from one point or to another point, you can be surprised when you see the statistic. And of course, the reduction of the carbon emission, because this is the goal of everyone. So we experienced in this, we were part of this experience, and it was really interesting for us. And on this project, it was used BIM application in the execution phase. And our part was how we can provide the data of our product in the BIM environment way. So we have used for this 3 different approach. BIM factories of the solution that we have developed in our company. PEPL standard, I think somebody mentioned this this morning, which is part of the European approach for the data exchange. And we use also GS1 global data synchronization network, which is GS1 standard. So we try to understand if we can use what is today available on the market. Can we use this for the transfer of our data for this specific use case? So the project was, as I said, it was few partners, and it was really about digital planning. Also, one point was very important. They implement this on the site. That they had a sensor in the rooms. So, for example, if the humidity was very high, you cannot bring some materials to the room. So the idea was that it's not only on time, but also depending on the condition on the job site, on the specific job site during the execution phase, to bring what is needed. That the workers, they have just a kit and they can really go to the work. And we, as I said, Knauf and Knauf Visualization, we see two logos. We provide our product data in this free standard. And the idea was just to have this optimal delivery scenario. So they have like their own developed software, how to work on this logistic use. So this is like a copy of our findings with this experience. So one, as I said, three different solutions of the delivery of the data. This is part of the, please, if you use this slide, use the source, because this is our article that we just provide like an article of, to global community. So please use the source also, that everyone is listed. So the GDSN, our BIM factory, this one, and the PEPL standard. So of course we had the people who knows how to use the different way of exchange of the information. Just to tell you that it was not really one solution that was the best. The idea was also to use the solution which are based on the standard, or they are independent of any available commercial solution also on the market. And in fact, what we found that the GDSN, so the GS1 solution, it was quite easy to us. We had some kind of the data template that we fill it with our data. We didn't find really the data template for our product, but we adapted to our needs. But we found that maybe in some cases it will be a little bit closed as a system also. So if we want to do the variants of terms in the terms of the information, maybe it will be a little bit closed. Then it was our internal solution. They found it standardized. It's not really standardized, but we have 4 minutes. Okay, it's the last slide. That was, in fact, the properties that they needed, we deliver. So our solution allows us to put the properties, and if you need to add any other properties that is useful for the use case, we can do this on the automatic way. But maybe it was less effective procurement-wise. So it was easy to transfer for us. It was not really a big deal because that was our solution. We know how to manage our data. But maybe in terms of the procurement, we should have to do something else. And PEPL was, as is a part of the language that is used, that is considered by the European Union as a part of the communication exchange. It was quite considered as a more convenient, but for us it was a little bit difficult because we are not using this kind of the communication. So it will be harder to implement on the manufacturing as a manufacturers. So this is our findings today. What I really appreciate that we had like a real business case. And we said, okay, if we can provide the information in the specific way. So we've got the information request, we provide our data, and then we contribute to something which is a business case or use case, but it's really business case. So this is what we are looking for to develop further with others, stakeholders. And I think if we have this kind of collaboration, that we can probably have more involvement of the manufacturers in digital transformation, or yeah. Okay. So I forgot. I have another.
Okay,
yeah.
So we are reaching the top of the hour, 3 o'clock, and then we're scheduled to have a break until 2:30. So the question is what do you all want to do about this? Because I believe there's one more presentation.
It's just one slide. Just saying that this is the standard that we talked during this buildingSMART International. So as I am part of the product room and also digital supply chain that we develop together, and this use cases was done one of the colleagues from the digital supply chain. So we are working on this case of the development. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to share with you everything.
Yeah. So we're a little bit running late. So if you don't mind, we have a fourth presentation from Andrea. So I hope you don't mind that the coffee break will be a little bit shorter.
First of all, thanks to be here. It's my first time. I'm Andrea Moscardi. I work from TM. TM is a Newty group. You found or?
No, I'm trying to find it right now.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Here we are. I'm running a lot in the first part. I'm Andrea Moscardi. This was the last big project I followed. I graduated with a thesis about BIM and facility management, developed with Land Lease and the professor Ezio Orlati. What is Newty Group? Newty Group is a brand. Inside this brand, we have TM Raccorderia, Newty Cirillo, MFT, electronic component, and we work in 83 countries in the world. We have the headquarters in Italy, someone in Spain, in Romania, Algeria, Greek, and a small production in America. We have over 120 certificates about our product, because we work a lot in all the parts of the world. And we have some synergy here in Italy with Curad, Casa Clima, and Kiwa for the certification. We have a big catalog about 18,000 items, and we work in the hydrothermal system. What about our BIM product? We start in the 2017 when we try to collecting what is BIM and why we have to develop the item in BIM. The company developed some item with MagicCAD, was the first. When I come inside on board the company, we change all and we release our product in our web pages and on BIM object. We found the first target, reached the first target at the end of 2022 with over 1,100 of single item download. This year, we create a collaboration with Akka Software, and in the future, we will go a full interoperability with all other systems, ArchiCAD, DDS-CAD, and each other. This is the number, what happened during the last year. As you can see, the returning visitor will increase a lot. And why they increase? What the designer choose in our product? The first object was so easy. Which level of detail, which is material, connector, certification, how the engineer or the designer could, and why they have to use this item. They need all this information. It's a lot of information. What helped me this information? To be honest, nothing. And when you have to select one object, how you want to choose this object? What is this 2310045? The user don't have to know all my catalog. I have to know what they need to go at the number of items. And when we develop our product, we use how the user how to use that and why they have to use to put my item inside the project. We change all the name and we create a work-breaking abstraction. So easy. First part, in which category we work, architectural, structural, or plumbing. The category of item, this is a valve ball item. The article, to understand what they really use. The connection, female, or male, in which part of the category of software you can find the item, and of course the brand name. After that, when the designer choose my item, the first part he need is the diameter of connection. How much is bigger this valve? And we recreate all the parameters inside the object. For the text part with a description, the material and finishes, the plumbing information, all the dimension, the mechanical information, identity, and of course the IFC parameter. Another part is create 3 different type of visualization about the product. High detail with the material and the correct dimension. The medium detail, for example, the maximum space they need. If I have to run in a class detection, I don't need a high detail. I need the space that occupied. And inside, the low detail with the symbol. Because if I have to create a P and ID diagram, I don't need the high detail. I need my symbol. Inside the object, we create a different selection of what I have to do. For example, for me, this valve, the leverage is a geometrical part. I don't have to change the item. When I choose the dimension and connect my pipe with my valve, when I change the color gives me the code. We change the process to choose an item, not from the code, but from the necessary. When I change again, that changes the code. And if you work for a public in Italy, you cannot place the logo. But for the brand, it's so important to place their logo because other people can take and share or take and grab my item. For this reason, we set a visibility option. Then, in the most important part, when I place one item inside my project is how that increase the total megabyte, the total size of my project. With our item, you can set one valve, place one valve that create over 53 types, and the weight inside my project is so light, is less than 1 mega. It's different. I place 1, 4, 10, 100 of item inside. That increase a lot the project weight. When you create, for example, a new project, this one is the new, the flat parameter inside the project. And when you import a new generic object, this parameter increases a lot. Into a project, we don't have only this, but we need, for example, something from air request, or from the BEP, or from create some filter on schedule. And all these parameters is really need. In the gray, we have the software parameter. In the green, what is the primary parameter? For example, the model and the article, to understand which product is IFC export as and IFC export type, to translate from a native software to open software. And as we talk, the visibility logo for the public administration. The secondary parameter can be, for example, material or item for classification, the size, the product description, the connection, the certification, all the data sheet and connection to my certification program. And for example, email, brand, link, version ID is really necessary, or I can clean and keep so light my item. This is an example of work as we collaborate with the designer. When we share and when we export, in this case, we have other. What is other? How can set this type of item? Or this elbow is a pipe elbow, is not a fitting, it's not a flow fitting. For this reason, we have to set all this information to have a good exportation when I work in open data. The panel is energy conversion device, and my elbow became a flow segment. We create some template who share the architect, and what happened? When they create this type of model, they can collect, connect, and the faucet and the shower is who give me the information to the pipe, arrive to the manifold, and collecting the total flow. But if you compare and if you try to create the same model in two different ways, with the manifold and with a single valve, with the correct information, I can estimate this, the total cost. The model is so easily, but changing the type and the quantity of pipe, the cost increase is a double price. And you can collect what? The model, the architectural, all the quantity, the correct description, and the total cost. The manufacturing in the future will have a very important role. This role it will be the bridge between designer and the constructor, because the designer doesn't have to spend so much time to create something. In the future, will be the manufacturer will share the total model as a quotation. If you choose my brand, I set the model, or maybe you can choose another brand, but the designer don't have to spend time, because it's the problem for them. Why have to choose beam? I draw in AutoCAD, it's the same for me. One line, I can change the size. I have done my work. And what we do when we create a collaboration, we share all the pipe, all the box, all the manifold, and the architect or engineer can place it inside their model so easily. It's already coordinated. This is another example where in this school we share all the pipe and they place into their file. This is another example about the ceiling heating system. We share all the model and the engineer place in their work. the detail is so high, we can choose the level of detail we want to share with them. This is another example where we offer all the item and the engineer create the room. If him can create that, you can construct that because you can buy the item and you have the correct space to place them. This is other two types of room. He create on 3D part and collecting what they have to buy. I'm running a lot.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so we have 15 minutes late. Sorry about that. I just would like to wrap up quickly. We've seen 4 presentations, and each of them was completely different. So every stakeholder is looking from her or his own perspective, but what they have in common is that it's really important if we see the product if it's a whole life cycle. So we have different stakeholders. We have architects who maybe don't care about insulation, but the purchasers do. But the architects should care about the elevators because it's really interfering their design and so on. So I think we can discuss further with the presenters or with more stakeholders what we can do in the product room to help them with the promotion of standards or with enhancing the standards and so on. So again, thank you very much for your presentations and hope to go further with these topics. And thank you also you who are not here but online that you've been here with us. So that's it from me. Thanks.